Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and just spreading positivity. We're all about the positivity here on the show, and I've got a very special guest with me. He has worked for numerous companies, including WCW, worked in Japan, and he's done a lot to help out in his community. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only Joe Gomez. Joe, welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
Oh, well, thank you, and I'm truly honored to be here. I appreciate the send-up. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. So tell me about your childhood and upbringing. Where are you from?
Well, I'll tell you, I was born in Hialeah, Florida, down in Miami, right by Miami, and I was an adopted-only kid. So I was truly blessed because I had unbelievable parents. So many kids have such horrible stories, especially now we hear it. 40 years ago, it wasn't quite as bad, I don't think. But I had unbelievable parents. Grew up in a little place called Miramar, Florida, which is right by Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. And it was just a bucolic childhood, rode our bikes everywhere, played football and baseball and sports. And it was a different time, a different world. You could let your kids go out and play and organically make friends, Now with my 13-year-old daughter, everything's a play date, and you can't leave them out of your sight. And, it's a different world. But I had a wonderful upbringing, very, very blessed and thankful.
Yeah, seems like you did. And what was your story as far as getting involved in wrestling? Were you a fan as a kid growing up? Was it something that you watched later on in life?
Yeah, of course. No, like all of us. I didn't amateur wrestle, although I kind of wish I did. But I played football and baseball through high school and college football. And I was at a wedding, Lightning Lou Perez, and Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, which was every young man's hero in South Florida, believe me. And Mike Graham were there. And they said, hey, kid, would you like to wrestle? Well, of course, I heard the infamous story of how Hulk got his ankle snapped by Hiro Matsuda. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm not going down there. These guys are going to beat the hell out of me. And there's not a damn thing I can do about it. So I would see like Ron Slinker, who was one of the trainers, and a legitimate, legendary tough guy in Tampa, former cop. He did the catching arrows on Wide World Sports. He had that hole in his hand. It healed over from where he missed. Mm-hmm. So, this guy was a real local legend. He was one of Kern's trainers. Yeah. So every time he'd see me around town, hey, kid, I thought you were coming out. I said, I'll be there. Yeah, you know what? I'll be right there. And I would I would powder because I was just like, there's no way I'm going down there. But then eventually, a friend of mine, Al Rosen, who owned the gym we all worked out at, I said, no, they think they might be able to make some money with you. And, they're being straight up. So I went down there and, Kern traded me in the old Sportatorium, which was about 120 degrees in the summer, no air. And Rob Van Dam was down there with us and a bunch of other guys who would go on to Stardom and had a great time, and some tremendous friendships and, just great memories for that whole territory.
Who were some of your favorites to watch growing up?
Oh, God. Nature Boy Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Rocky Johnson, Don Morocco, King Curtis always scared the hell out of me. And the other guy, too, Missouri Mauler. Oh, my God. He had just a battery that wouldn't quit, just as a heel. Abdullah the Butcher would just instill fear in any kid, if you got close. So pretty much all those guys in the Florida, I was leaning on that, Championship Wrestling from Florida and Gordon Soley, so long from the Sunshine State. And, 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I think, on Saturday night, Channel 6 and 33. So, oh, yeah. I used to watch it voraciously. So when they asked me if I wanted to be in the business, I was dumbfounded, And then, once I finally worked up the courage, I guess, to go down there, I had a great time. Kern and I are still very dear friends now. He's a great man. Mike was my first tag team partner. God rest his soul. He was a tremendous guy. Just, had a lot of demons, I guess, whatever, baggage. But a really good-hearted man. So, Mark Starr, gone long, too gone, another dear friend. There was just a lot of characters there. Just like every territory had their characters. In Florida, every month we'd go down to the Bahamas and wrestle, and that was just tremendous. So, yeah, it was a great place to grow and learn the business. It really was.
Yeah, good vacation spot, too.
Yeah. And mind you, imagine, Stan, we're living in paradise. So, if you're wrestling in Tallahassee, you're home that night.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wrestling in Jacksonville, you're home that night. Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, we'd always be racing each other on the road and, getting back home, and just really, really tremendous times. It was a simpler time, and the boys were really the boys. It was really a family, you considered it, so.
Yeah, definitely a lot of camaraderie.
Oh, the best.
Yeah,
the best.
All right. Well, when you decided you wanted to do this and you went in to start training, it's very difficult. It's very hard. You have to put your body through so much, and it's a lot of work. And what was it like for you starting out as a professional wrestler?
Oh, imagine the first day we get on the lower rig ropes. Well, first, he teaches us to throw ourselves backwards, and you know how you attack the pad.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you don't know how to bump. So he's training us to just fall flat back on your back. That's not a real normal, thing that you normally do in life. So that was hard enough. Then he has us go to the first rope, then the second rope, and jump back and do a flat back bump. So I had a real hard time with that, trying to convince myself, okay. And I remember doing sunset flips, poor Kern. Steve had to wear headgear because I hit him hard way once. Because I wore, and Stan, being just an idiot, I wore a pair of like Nike hiking boots. I said, oh, these will be good to wear, for wrestling practice. And they had the thick rubber thing. They were really stiff. God bless. I caught Steve right in the forehead and hit a pretty good little hard way. So,
yeah.
But the hardest thing, just the repetition, I remember hitting the rope so much, you'd urinate blood, you had bruises up and down your sides because, those are steel cables in the rope. Learning how to fall, where to find the sweet spot, the soft spot. You'll watch a match and you'll always see guys, not so much now because the rings are pretty much uniform. But back in the days, you'd see guys, testing it, touching the mat with their feet. Seeing how it gives, how it grabs, seeing the soft spots of the ring. That was always one of the first things you could tell a guy who really knows what he's doing. He'd research the ring and see where the sweet spot was, to bump. But, it's just tough. But, I just come home from playing college football, so I was in good shape in regards to that. But, nothing ever prepares you to, get suplexed off the top rope, fall 10 feet in the air flat on your back, get up, jump in the air, do a front bump, get up, get the ropes, go run around a circle the ring. And, Steve had all these drills to blow us up, and he did quite well at that. But it was great.
Was there anything from your time in football that kind of helped prepare you for wrestling?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you play football, it's fourth quarter, and, you hold your hands up 4 quarters. You just kind of dig deep, But wrestling is just so different. Kern would say, all right, look at yourself in the mirror in your underwear and see if you would pay money to see yourself. Wow, that's a good point. So, you're kind of caught up on that, like, man, I hope I look okay, from a cosmetic standpoint. You're breathing faster because even the little TV, that we had, which was on the, Sports Zone, we also did at the public EDU on North Boulevard here in Tampa. So, small studios, but even though it's still very, with the hot lights and you're sweating and you're nervous, and you're green like I was, I think that's probably the hardest part. Being in shape to do it is probably easier, but, blowing up and then, you take them over rear chin, but you're straining to make it, you know what I'm saying? But you're
Yeah.
Up. So it's just so tough. So much. Paul Orndorff told me the best advice, and I agree with it 100%. He said it takes about 1,000 matches till that light bulb goes on. And I think that's a pretty good number. Unless it's Kurt Angle or Brock Lesnar or, some guy like that, because those guys are just off the charts. But to get it, and again, we weren't working 5 or 6 nights a week. So if you're working, 8 times a month, maybe it's going to take longer to get that seasoning, to get that polish.
Right.
That's the hard part about it.
Were there any pieces of advice from your trainers that kind of stuck with you that you took away from your time training to become a wrestler?
Absolutely. Steve Kern probably helped me. And I think if you ask, all the guys that are champs now in WWE, from Sheamus to Raj to you name it, Kern's fingerprints are all over him. And one of the first things he taught us as a young man, I was really young, I was like 19, was always go up, always introduce yourself, and show respect, because this is a respectful sport, driven by respect. And I think that was one of the best things he ever, showed and told us. Look a man in the hand and shake his hand. Obviously, wrestling handshake's a little different in the business world, but still the same principles apply. Just be humble. And I think that's helped me out a lot in the regular world in business, where I've been fortunate and very successful, more so than wrestling for that matter. But I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got from Steve. And he was always a guy that got along with everybody. You'd see people that had beefs with a lot of guys, or as we call it, heat. But there was usually a reason for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He'd have heat with this guy, or he'd have heat with this guy. When you meet guys like Steve Kern, Ricky Steamboat, one of the classiest human beings I've ever met in my life, they had no heat with anybody because of the way they carried themselves, with comportment and class. And, so that was a great, great lesson Steve taught me. And I'll always appreciate that.
Yeah, respect definitely goes a long way, especially in professional wrestling. You meet a lot of people, and you're working with so many people. You're seeing them every day, 365, 24/7. You're on the road with them. And so you have to get along with them, find a way to befriend them. And that's what you just got to do.
I'm sure you've heard enough horror stories about the boys on the road. And, and this is such a nice program, I really can't share them, but he'll in a room with Sid Vicious or the Iron Sheik, for example, and that's where it comes in, where you really have to kind of learn how to manage personalities, because there's so many diverse personalities in the locker room. It's unbelievable. Cultures, religions, personalities, you name it. So I think that's a real tremendous trait to have. That'll serve you well in life.
Most definitely. Now, when you started out, you were on the independents before joining WCW. What can you tell me about your first few matches?
Oh, God. That was horrible. I was lucky that I had a look, that they thought was conducive to perhaps making money. I was a good-looking guy, young guy, and, whatever. And it was a different look, I guess, because I had a Native American background. So I was tagging, but I was real blessed. I was still living at home with my parents. I'm going to wrestling classes. I'm going to college. So it was kind of like a part-time job. And, every other month we'd go to the Bahamas. So I'm going to all these cool places with guys I grew up watching. Not so much Dream, because Dream had already gone back to WCW by then. But Dick Slater, Mike Graham, Kern, because Steve and Mike were trying to keep the Florida territory alive. Barry was already gone, and some of the other guys. But that's my parrot, by the way. yeah, he's laughing. Thinks it's funny. It was just a real trip to get to know all these guys. And they were really helping out and trying to educate, but I was always one of those guys that, I had different businesses at the time, so I wasn't really as focused as I should have been on the business, and that's probably one regret I do have, because I had a great time, unbelievable guys, great friendships to this day, but, probably wasn't as focused as I should have been. So.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had my first bar, Cherries, when I was going to WCW the second time. So you're trying to run a bar, right? We had a 20-year run in Ybor. Then I opened up a $1 million sushi bar called Sushi on 7th. So I'm trying to do that. And it was great because all the boys would come in whenever they're in Florida. Flair would go on and meet me at Carrie's, the old girls between 18 and 26, no boyfriends, and it would just be crazy. But, if you own any business like you with your podcast here, and I've seen some of them, and you do a great job, and you're really trying to grow it, you're very welcome. And you put your energy and your heart and your soul, your passion into it. But if you were to be asked to go play professional soccer, you can imagine what that would do to your podcast. So that's one thing I kind of wish I had been able to compartmentalize better, perhaps. But aside from that, man, nothing but great memories. A lot of physicality, just a lot of good times, able to travel the world with your friends. And Florida was just such a great place to learn. Steve Kern was such a nurturer, which is why Johnny and WWE chose him 20-something odd years later to run the FCW program for him, until they eventually moved to Orlando. But Steve was just great. He treats you like his own kid. He really does.
Yeah. We definitely got that knowledge and experience. You got to work with a lot of people over the course of your career. Who are some of your favorite opponents?
Well, I mean, being able to wrestle, Rick, who was my idol, and then, he and Arn took me under the wing when I was a rookie, and I traveled with them, which probably was both good and bad. Double A, I wrestled Arn for the TV title. That was probably, one of the top heart in your throat moments. Wrestling the Iron Sheik, my first match at WCW. That's where we were at before. I was tagging with Mike Graham against the Nasty Boys because Mike and Steve just brought Jerry and Brian in from Minneapolis. So you could imagine they were young and wild, and Brian was still in pretty good shape. He was heavy, but he could go. And Jerry was an animal. So they'd tell me, "Kid, we got to do boots tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, God." And that meant, they're going to be stiff. So, but I took my ass beatings, like I should. Didn't complain, didn't say anything, just took it. "Yes, sir. Thank you for the match," blah, blah, blah. But I was married to them for the first probably 2 months in the business. Mike and I would go around the state of Florida, and I'd be wrestling Nasties for the title. We changed it a few times. But, it'd always be heat on the kid. Mike Graham would come in and hit him with those, because Mike was light as a feather. I mean, you had to look to see if he was holding you. And they'd be bouncing all over for Mike Graham, and for me, nothing. I'm like, "Hey, wait a minute, guys." So, but I did learn, you learn from that. You learn again, there's respect. Mike's a 25, 30-year veteran, second generation. So that was one of the big things you learned right there was the respect that Brian and Jerry had for him, and he was the boss. So Ole came to town looking for talent. Obviously, the Nasty Boys, not I. But for some reason, he liked me. So he flew me up to Atlanta. I went up there, and I'll never forget, I was in his office at the CNN Center, totally nervous and just, I think I had like 17 matches under my belt, maybe 27. And he offered me a contract, $1,000 a week. I'm like, wow, cool. I was bouncing, making, 500 a week, having a blast. But in wrestling, so, it was a pretty cool life. So I called Kern. He goes, "Hell yeah, you never know if you get another shot." Signed it. So I did. And they put me right on the road, literally like 2 hours later after going through everything. I went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where I was going to wrestle the Sheik, the Iron Sheik, the real deal. And he was still, he could still go. His ankle was mangled, but he could still go pretty good. So I was just like, oh, my God, what an honor. So I'm driving him, and there was a guy named Al Green from Florida. Big, tough guy, too. Good guy. Eventually, I'd be married to him and Kevin Nash as the Master Blasters. The first couple months on the road there as well. So I go over on the Sheik, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, he's going to kill me. I'm still pretty naive. And could not have been easier, the gimmick, the tongue depressor. It could have been easier. What a nice guy. Loves you. And, so on the road, and Flair and Arn, there was two teams there, an A and a B team. And I had met them at TV, and again, being respectful and whatever. But I told them the story after I had heel of the room with Al Green and the Sheik. Flair proceeded to spit orange juice all over the seat in front of him on the plane. He goes, "Oh, it's okay, kid. You come and stay with us now." So imagine, Stan, I'm riding with the Horseman. I was out of my mind. My first contract was $52,000. My parents gave me a American Express card, to put everything for the accountant, just to make it easier. And I spent like $73,000 my first that I didn't have.
Wow.
And they're like, "What are you doing?" "Mom, Dad, I'm with the Horseman." Oh, they wanted to kill me.
Oh, God.
And Rick would get on the phone. "Oh, don't worry, Miss Gomez. We're taking good care of Joe. Oh, we love you." So it just, but I thank God, we're still best friends. He lives here in Tampa. And he was an adopted only kid. So it was like, and Arn was raised by his granny. So the three of us just became thick as thieves. And, after my parents had died summarily down the road, probably 10, 15 years later, I'd spent like 5 Christmases with Rick and Arn in Charlotte.
Wow.
I'd spend 1 week at Arn's house, 1 week at Rick's. And those are the kind of friendships. So when you're idol, we all wanted to be Ric Flair when we were kids. Takes you into the wing and, makes you part of his family. It's probably the biggest thrill of my life.
Yeah. You seem to be like you were on cloud 9 and you're hanging out with the Horseman. That's just huge.
I would have to, back then kayfabe was real. So I'd have to have a towel over my head. "Chief, go get the beer." Arn would have me get the beer. They'd all give me like $20 each. But it only cost like 40. So I'd make like 40, 60 bucks. And guys, here it was only, "Oh, just keep it, Chief." Okay, that's double A. But I'd have to have the beer iced down, car backed up, trunk open, ready to, because Beak was always last. Rick was last. And Arn was, second, next to last, whatever. So it would always be me, curtain jerker, behind the wheel, waiting to go. And, but just tremendous times. Teddy Long, I love Teddy.
He's awesome.
He really is. He is a good man.
Mm-hmm.
One day I had taken the caddy to go visit a lady friend of mine in Atlanta, in the suburbs. And Rick was staying at the, oh my God, it was a Marriott property, but it was I can't remember, it was right by the airport. And Arn was staying at the Dungeon, which is what we call the Howard Johnson. So I took the car and ran around, went and saw this girl, Melissa, and had to get some other stuff, whatever, and come back, get them ready to go on time. Gas empty. Ran the car out of gas. So we're right next door to a Tom Thumb. It's still there next to the, where is it? The Dungeon. It's Howard Johnson's and right in Camp Creek, right by Camp Creek. So I'm going there and I go, "Oh my God, I left my wallet in the car, my money." So I tell the guy, "Hey, listen," and I had at the time, my first Rolex because I wanted to be like Greg. So I'm like, "Listen, sir, this Rolex with $5,000. Hold it. I just need gas, and you have no idea what I did." So the only thing he had for gas was like for a lawnmower, and I'm trying to turn on a full-size Lincoln. Not Lincoln, Caddy. So it took probably 6 trips back and forth, 98-degree weather in Atlanta in the summer. Teddy Long's just sitting there watching, laughing. Goes, "Chief running, dummy, run out of gas, driving the Horseman." So for the rest of my career, to this day, I'm known as Chief Running Dummy. But those kind of things you can't forget. I named a restaurant I opened. It was here in Tampa, my second sushi restaurant, which is still open, called Sakana, right on Andy, right off Bayshore. Because Barbarian used to call me his Sakana, which means fish in Japanese. We'd play rugby every night, and I loved it. It was so much fun, but I wasn't good at it. But it was just so cool. Colonel Parker, like within 5 plays, he knew what you had. Amazing. Barbarian was okay, but he was just such a neat guy, and just great camaraderie. So we'd be playing car. "Oh, Joe, I saved seat for you. Come here, my Sakana." He'd get $50 off me a night, because of course Flair taught me always get your draw money. Back then they gave us draws, and I was only able to get $300. Flair, I think it was a story. He took like $5,000 one night because it's the house money from the show, gas.
Mm-hmm.
So Barb would, oh, Mama loves you, Joe. He's bringing home much $200 a week for me from Jen, and playing him and Colonel Parker. So it was just, driving Barbarian, me, Barb, Kevin Sullivan, Double A. I think Orndorff was in the car. Barb started playing with my hair. Oh, Joe, where do you stay tonight? I'm like, I'm room with Arn. Right away, Arn feeds in because a wrestling locker room or a car with a bunch of veterans is the biggest pack of wolves you'll ever go in.
Mm.
Trust me. So Arn goes, nah, Barb, I can stay with you tonight. I'm like, no, I'm going to stay with you. Mind you, this monster is stroking my hair as I'm driving.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, and he's just ribbing me. I have no way to know this, though. And I'm like, when you're really mad and you have tears in your eyes, but you're not letting them fall. And I'm just like, I'm going home. I'm quitting. These people are nuts. This is totally weird. And he's telling me stories which I can't share on your program, but it was hilarious because he had me totally flipped by the end of the night. Sullivan's in the back. I'm telling you, the Indian's queer. I'm like, oh, my God.
Man. Wow.
But it was something else. I used to think of football locker room, other locker rooms. You grow up in mind you, I'm only talking high school, college. But you would think that was a lot of, pardon my language, ball breaking, whatever. But there's nothing tougher than a wrestling locker room. Nothing. Oh.
No. But it looks like you had a lot of fun. There was a lot of camaraderie, riding up and down the roads, going to the restaurants, the hotels, the bars. I mean,
the best.
Yeah. Can't get any better than that.
No, everything's changed. The business has changed, and there's no card playing backstage anymore. There's no real camaraderie, and that has to be because everything changes over time, and the boys don't, and thank God for that, because there's a lot less serious issues, with the less partying and what have you, and thank God I never got involved in that, but that's a good thing, a positive thing. They always say, oh, the boys now, they just go up to their rooms and play video games. Well, that's a lot better than having to go to, 12 funerals in 1 year. So, so in that regard, it is a lot better. But you just got to miss the old days when we'd all get together, and it really was a family.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Bobby Eaton. I remember the time the Steiners jumped on Bobby Eaton. And I know this is politically correct, but I'm not going to say the word, and they would say Bobby had blank strength. Cause he didn't like to be held down or locked. I remember once I locked him in a bathroom on a private jet we were flying, a charter jet from, I think it was from when they did that Road Wild in Sturgis. And I put my foot against the door and he couldn't get out. He freaked out, blew the door off the hinges, knocked me silly. I had an egg on my head.
Oh, goodness.
We got in trouble with the FAA because, you can't tamper with a door or whatever. And, we got called for that. But, oh, God, just too much.
Yeah, a lot of ribs. And you worked in Japan, too. I mean, I'm sure you noticed a different culture there. I mean, it's different compared to the United States.
Unbelievable. The respect they have for the boys and just for themselves and just as a society. Downtown is so clean. And you see these guys that work so hard. They're like, I don't know, I guess you'd say worker bees. They'd be working. They have their ties askew, and they're wearing their white pressed work shirt. They have their briefcases, of course, and they're catching, because the subway's a huge mode of transportation there. And they're just going back and forth. If those guys would go out, Roppongi being the big entertainment district and everything, and you'd see those guys out, man, 5 and 6 getting back, still carrying their briefcases, ties askew, and they roared all night. So, Japanese, they work hard, but they play hard too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a different. You've been there, right?
I've never been. Maybe one day.
Well, listen. If you keep doing what you're doing with the passion you're doing it, you will be there.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because they don't pop in a regular way. It's very subdued. So that kind of, I guess, takes them. Not that they were popping for me all the time, but that kind of gets them taking used to that. You realize it's, the culture itself is very subdued.
Yeah, yeah.
But the food's great. Korean barbecue's every one of the boys' favorites. And, that's always a treat going to Japan. I love it.
Yeah, definitely they take the wrestling seriously there.
Oh, yeah. And the sumos, too. Barb and Haku got recruited to be sumos when they were 13. They were,
Wow.
yeah, they were like 13 years old. Imagine how tough that is, being a 13-year-old, no parents, no brothers, no sisters, in a strange country, and you don't really speak the language, just rudimentary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to really learn it and be able to speak it in order to understand what everyone's saying. So, yeah, there's definitely a language barrier there.
Oh, my God, yeah. Can you imagine?
Yes. Whew. All right. Well, let's switch gears and talk about the stuff that you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've done a lot of charity work, partnered up with different organizations or done stuff on your own. What stuff have you done outside of wrestling to help out in your community?
Well, we do every year we do the food drive with Metropolitan Ministries, and I'm really proud of that. And I bring my daughter with me on that too, so she could see. It's every parent's. If you're, I guess one of the biggest things is you want to teach your child humility. That no matter how you may have it at home, there's a lot of people that are suffering out there, and you always want to just do the right thing. I do it because it just makes me feel good. And I've been burned by, maybe being too charitable with some of my rental properties and what have you. Like, I've got a widow living there now for $1,000 a month for a $2,800 a month house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. But I just feel so bad for her, because I watched her husband, who was a friend of mine, Rob, just wither away from cancer. So she's been there 2 years. I'm just like, But, yeah, and it just feels good. And, we do a lot of stuff in the community, just knowing a lot of the people, a lot of the leaders, and, growing up with them and growing up here in Tampa since my senior year. And it's just a lot of fun, and we did the bike raise, it was like 1,500 bikes this Christmas. A friend of mine, Scott, started this, and it's just a tremendous charity. And when you can give a kid a bike who really has nothing, it's just, it really makes you realize how blessed we are.
Yeah.
You see some of the sad stories. In my other business, I have a funding company, and for that business, I really do have to see a lot of the hardships, as you can imagine. So, it's always good to just remember and try to give back, and leave your mark. And hopefully my daughter will be the same way. And she is. She's got a huge heart. She's very empathetic and just loves animals. And I think that would be the best thing for me, that knowing that she grows up the same way and, believes in helping others. Because if we can all just help 1 or 2 people a day, you know what? It'll grow, and maybe one day we can get this thing turned around again, how it was when I was younger, when you were a baby, where people didn't matter if we were black or white or whatever, man. We were all Americans. We all, just wanted to see everybody do well.
Yeah, bleed red.
Yeah, but, when you get religion into it and race, it's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. We're all human beings, and, it's hard enough out there just to make it, let alone when you factor in all those other things. So
yeah, the holidays are very stressful for a lot of people, especially young kids who may not have the money to afford presents, and families too. Some kids are without a family. They're going through hard times in their life. Was there a particular instance where you had to talk with some kids or talk with some people that couldn't afford certain gifts for Christmas, or had to help them out?
Yeah, no, I would listen every year, and I'm glad. I'm glad that I can laugh about it. But every year, I'm the biggest sucker, and sometimes my better half gets a little mad, but she gets it. Just I'll go to houses sometimes to meet clients and stuff, and it's a dirt floor and there's no food. I can't tell you how many times I order pizzas for them, or leave them $100, $200. Hey, get some presents for the kids. I mean, it really moves me to tears, just the stuff I've seen. So, again, if you could, leave your own little mark and maybe inspire other, not inspire, but, have other people do it, and, get some of your friends together and do it, which we've done all the time. We raised, tons of food for the one before last, right when COVID broke. Because we went to Cash and Carry, went to some of the other grocers and said, look, give us your scratch the dent stuff. If you can do it yourself and I just know how it makes me feel. Even just giving a guy $5 in the corner, and yeah, you know what? The guy might be making $50K a year under the table, but I know I feel good because it was with good intentions. Listen, get something to eat. Don't. So that's just my philosophy on it. I think if you can help people, and you can't judge. I teach my daughter all the time, honey, she goes, oh, but daddy, he's just sick. I said, but maybe he lost his wife. Maybe he had a horrible fire and lost his family. He's not quite equipped to cope with it like other people are. You never judge somebody if you walk in their shoes. And I just think so many sad stories out there. It really breaks my heart. It does.
Yeah, it's very sad out there,
Well, and then I realized I was adopted by two of the most wonderful people to walk the earth. And the kind of friends that I have and the life that I'm so blessed, So I think if you don't do something, however you do it, your own way, join a whatever, you're neglect,
Yeah, you definitely have to be grateful for the things you have and to appreciate the stuff that's out there. Count your blessings because, there's always going to be someone out there that doesn't have very much, if not anything.
Yeah.
And it's important to help someone so that they can feel good, so that you can feel good. Why do you feel passionate about helping out in your community?
Because my community gave me so much. I have so many friends here. The support I receive from DJs. Every time I would open a business and my friends would come there. I just got 4 tickets for our judges in Hillsborough County because they wanted, what was the last pay-per-view before Royal Rumble, I think, that was in Tampa?
Yeah.
So I just got 4 judges tickets there. They were out of their minds, and they love coming down to meet Flair and everything. And I just, I enjoy seeing that, if you can make somebody happy, Now, not necessarily them, they're doing quite well. They're just very dear friends of mine. But, I always tell Rick, I've seen people just move to tears when they meet him. That's pretty heavy because you never know, like, if Rick takes 5 minutes to talk to some guy, maybe that guy was thinking about committing suicide. But because he got to meet his idol, he's going to fight it one more day. And then maybe on that 3rd day after that, he gets a job. And then he turns it around. I've seen crazier stuff happen. And it's just the thing is, always believe. And if you believe in yourself, and Flair taught me this. He did teach me this: your family, your friends, and your health. And those are the only things that matter. And I could not agree more than that. If you have those 3 things, you can do anything in life. So, I just think so many times we say, oh, God, I'm tired. Oh, God, what did I have to spend 10 on? Oh, the boathouse here, back here, because, I don't know, the low electric line with the salt water, it melted some aluminum. It cost me $10,000. But who cares? Because that's nothing. My child's healthy. Shannon's healthy. I'm healthy. A little heavy, but healthy. Those are the things that really matter. So,
Yeah,
that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to be grateful and appreciate the good things in life. Well, Joe, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. Where can people find more about you? Do you have a website? Are you on social media? Where can people find more about you?
I do, but I'm so bad. One of my we got rid of it, a pizza place. One of my managers actually runs my social media. But we do have a new movie that I was a producer of. One of my very best friends in the world, Mario Garcia, wrote this movie. And I'm so proud of him because at the age of 50, raised 3 wonderful boys, took great care of his family. He said, you know what? I'm going to try to do one of my dreams now. Cool. So he wrote the story called The Throwback. Raised $1 million between all of his friends, myself and a bunch of other friends included, and cast it. He's got Will Sasso as lead, a girl named Justine. God, what is her last name? And she's gotten really big now, too. She's actually a tremendous actress. And Bobby Lee, who's a hilarious comedian. He actually steals a lot of scenes in the movie. And we got my business partner, Mark, let him use his beautiful office building in St. Pete overlooking the, what's it called? The pier. And, he used like his sister's house that they just had built, right around the corner from me, beautiful, right on the water. So, we were able to pull together a lot of things so it wouldn't cost as much. But anyways, we're doing a portion of that. It just got released to Amazon now, and we just had a week-long, opening here at the Cine Bistro in downtown Tampa. But we're donating a portion of that to mental health because the story's about she gets hit on the head, living a normal life, 40-ish, and then she reverts back to her college years. So she thinks she's young and crazy and wild. Her husband, Will Sasso, is like, what the heck's going on? He can't understand it. So then it leads to more hilarity, et cetera, until, the finish. But we're going to donate a percentage of whatever's raised from that for mental health. So, again, you can do something like what Mario did, which I salute him. He chased his dream. He wrote the story. He directed it, produced it. Well, not produced it, but directed it, cast it. And now we're going to try to do some good things for mental health. So that's, I'd say that's a win-win.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I can't wait to check it out and see it.
Yeah, check it out and watch. My name will be up there in the credits. Joe Gomez.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
I would absolutely be honored to. I had a great time, and you do a tremendous job on your podcast. Seriously. And sorry about the background noise. It's a little bit of a crazy house. But,
it's all right.
Thanks. For everybody out there, thank you. I had a great time. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.